Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And what is really a first for this podcast, so we're doing a roundtable discussion of sorts. Let's begin with you guys giving us a brief introduction, if you don't mind, and just tell us your name, your coaching position, and where you coach currently. And Coach Zigler, you're up first, my man. Go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody out there.
Thanks, Ty. My name's Brennan Zigler. I'm a defensive line coach at West Washita High School. About the North Central between Ruston, Louisiana and West Monroe, Louisiana.
Okay, and this next coach doesn't have his last name. He's kind of like Cher or The Rock. You just one name. He goes by one name and one name only. I like that. Coach Josh, where you at, Coach Josh? Give us your introduction.
How y'all doing? My name's Josh Lyons. I'm the defensive D-line coach at Kilgore High School, Kilgore, Texas. It's pronounced Shire.
Hey, and for you guys who are listening to this, I know Coach Josh Lyons at Kilgore. I just messed with him a little bit. I like giving him a hard time. He's a brand new dad, and so he needs all the humor in his life that he can handle. All right, next up is another guy that I know and am familiar with, and that's someone I've worked with before, and that's Coach Mendoza. Go ahead, Coach Mendoza.
Hey guys, Justin Mendoza here, assistant coach D-line. New Braunfels Canyon. Just took that position this past summer. Looking forward to it. Coach defensive tackles, and looking forward to this upcoming school year.
Great. Okay, Coach McCarty, go ahead.
What's up, fellas? My name's Sandy McCarty. I'm a D-line coach at McKinney High School, and it's my third. I just finished third year there at McKinney High. I've been there 3 years with Coach Shavers, and I just finished year number 17 overall. So, looking forward to hopefully getting back in the playoffs next year. So that's what we're looking forward to.
Awesome. Okay, next up, Coach Urgelles. I hope I'm saying your last name right, Coach.
Very good. I'm Coach Urgelles. I'm over with Stephen Urgelles is fine. I'm at Waco Midway. So what's up, Mr. Guy McKinney, Mr. McCarty? We faced off a couple years ago, a pretty good battle. I coach defensive ends, and I've been here for 5 years.
Great. All right. Next up, let me see who we got here. You guys, I know you may all think you're fans of this podcast and you might claim to be fans, but this next guy is the number one KYPD fan, because I get an email from him every week telling me how much he liked the episode. So he's a huge supporter of this podcast and a great coach as well. And that's Coach Tino Acosta. Go ahead, Coach. Here's your moment. Introduce yourself to these guys.
What's up, fellas? Tino Acosta. I'm a D-line coach at Weatherford. I've been at Iowa Park the past 7 years, and man, this is a great source for everybody. So thank you, Ty, for putting it on. Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. Okay. Going down the list here, let's see. Coach Maynor, go ahead.
Travis Maynor. I'm the D-line coach at Sanger High School. I'm also the middle school boys coordinator, so I get a whole lot of middle school to high school fun. This is just finished my first year at Sanger.
Awesome. Okay. Next up, Coach Rorie, joining us from the East Coast. What you got, Coach Rorie?
Okay, sorry about that. Coach Tyrus Rorie, guys, how y'all doing? I'm a high school D-line coach here out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been following Keep Your Pads Down. I've been coaching about 16 years now, played some arena ball, played in college. So I love this forum, and I look forward to talking and chatting with you guys.
Great. I think I got everybody. Did I miss anybody? Going through the list there, I think I got everybody. All right. Hopefully no one gets their feelings hurt if I did overlook them, but I think I got everybody. All right, guys. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to first start off with a little bit of a softball here and kind of get the ball rolling. I want to hear how you, just real quickly, how you got into coaching. Maybe, I've had guys tell their stories here on this podcast where we've had a coach who started out as a beer and liquor distributor and then realized that's not what he wanted to do. So he got into coaching. We've had guys who, just recently was telling us that they were backpacking in New Zealand for a year and then they got into coaching. And we've had guys who pretty typical route into coaching. So for you, how did you get into coaching? And Coach McCarty, we're going to start with you, if you don't mind. How did you get into coaching?
Well, I wish I had some kind of amazing story or something like you said, if I, whatever, doing something or backpacking in Europe or something like that. I wish I had something like spectacular to tell everybody. But for me, to be honest, I had some really good, amazing high school football coaches for me. And it's just something I always wanted to do. I always had a calling for it. So I had some amazing defensive coordinators when I was in high school. I kind of grew up in Flower Mound. I was at Marcus for a little bit, and then my dad moved us to Oklahoma. And then we kind of finished off at Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And of course, it's a bit of a culture shock going from Flower Mound, Texas, going up to Oklahoma, and stuff like that. This is many, many years ago, Coach. But, made the best of it, but had some amazing coaches up there, at Bigsby and Broken Arrow and Union and Jenks, and lots of great football coaches up there. So I just was probably just inspired by a lot of guys when I was in high school, my junior and senior year, and I just kind of took it from there. And that's just something I knew I always wanted to do, always. So that's about it for me.
Coach Acosta, tell us your story, a little bit about your football journey and how you got into coaching.
Well, man, it all started. I graduated from Sul Ross State University in '91, and I played a little basketball there, very little, but I played. And I just got inspired by the people around me, coaches before, in high school and college. And I had a job at Zavala Middle School in Pecos, Texas, 7th grade campus. And I was volunteering for the football team. And they had a guy who had to give it up for personal reasons. And I just slid into the spot and been blessed ever since, 30 years later.
And Coach Lyons, I know you and I we've talked before on this podcast. I had you on about a little over a year ago, and so I know you played at Sam Houston. For these guys who don't know, the national champion Sam Houston State Bearcats.
That's right.
So talk a little bit about how you got into coaching.
I come from a military family. A lot of the time when my parents were off, they're using coaching as an outlet just to kind of get away from the military life. It's something that I kind of stepped into just due to being around it my whole life, throughout, my parents being deployed and stuff. I was usually playing sports. Like I said, just always being around athletics. So when I graduated from Sam, I actually wanted to be not a personal trainer, but a athletic trainer. And then I GA'd for a year and just kind of fell in love with it. I've been coaching ball ever since.
Great. Well, let's move on to our next question here. And our next question is kind of in those same vein, that same vein of how you got into coaching. But this one is, just thinking about some advice that you got as a young coach, or maybe even as you were been coaching for a while. But I want to hear about from you guys the best advice you ever received as a coach. And Coach Urgelles, we'll kick it off with you. Talk to us about some really good advice that you got maybe early on in your coaching career.
Some of the advice that I got early on, early on was obviously develop relationships with those kids. You can only push those kids as hard as your relationship is and how much of a concrete relationship you have with those kids. We're going to put those kids in uncomfortable situations that sometimes they don't want to be in. Obviously, like off season and things of that nature. Are not the most fun thing to do, especially nowadays. And if they know they have somebody behind them, pushing them, loving on them, holding them to a high expectation, I think you're going to get more out of your kids. And I thought that was the number one standard that I try to live up to.
Absolutely. Coach Zigler, what do you got?
Well, I've heard this at a clinic when I was early on in coaching. Be where you are. A lot of times in the coaching philosophy or coaching job is we're always worried about what we don't have instead of what we got right at our feet. And the kids deserve it for us to believe, we want to be there with them. We want to be there. They deserve it. The program that you're trying to build deserves that mindset. We're having a society that it's always trying to keep up with the Joneses. Try to keep up with the school right down the road when you could bypass. When you do that, you bypass things that you should care about in-house and at your feet. So be where you are would be my most important coaching advice that I've gotten.
Yeah, all of that is really good advice and really solid advice. You guys are fortunate to have been around people who have able to steer you in the right direction as far as that goes. Open this up to the rest of you guys. Anybody else has some really solid advice that you have gotten at some point in your coaching career?
Stay busy. There's always something to do. Sorry, Coach. I didn't mean to cut you off, man. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's okay. Hey, listen, guys, don't worry about that. That's going to happen a lot, and I can cut that out. So it's all good. Y'all just keep rolling. Go ahead, Coach Rorie.
Okay. What I was about to say was my best advice I got was to be friends and network with offensive coaches. Get with the offensive coordinators. Get with the O-line guys. See what they're doing. Become friends with those guys. You know, a lot of times, being a position coach defense, that's how you learn. That's how I learned over the years, and it made me well at coaching. I played football, and I thought I knew a lot about D-line until I read defensive coordinator, until I really got, and I seen how those offensive guys wanted to attack me. So that's my advice, is to get with some offensive coaches. That's don't always be around defensive guys. Just hang with some offensive guys and learn what they're doing to us, man.
That's hard because those offensive coaches are dorks most of the time.
Yeah, they secretive, right?
Yeah, you don't like hanging with those guys. But all right, I got you. No, that's good advice. That's good advice. All right, anybody else?
For me, I actually got this from my father, who was a coach for 35 years. And right when I got into it, I came out of – it took 2 years to go to ministry, but I came out of college and I played a little college ball, and, I kept getting just drained by kids just not, fully being in it, and just like, how do you not understand, a simple stance and stuff like that? And my father was like, they're never going to love it as much as you do. And so for me to kind of understand, like, okay, they want to love it, the game, but the thing is, if you think that they're already on the same level as you, it's never going to build a relationship. And so when I got that in my first 3 months of coaching, and it's just something that I've carried everywhere I've gone so far.
Yeah, that's great advice, and I know we've all have been there and felt that frustration. It usually comes out when you're coaching those freshmen, or like Coach Rorie was talking, or somebody was talking about coaching middle school football. I coached middle school football for the first time when I came here to PG, and so I've grown to really like it. But man, you're right, Coach. It can be draining on you for sure. Anyone else before we move on?
I'll go real quick, Ty. Talking about had an old coach mention the home plate accountability rule to me one time. Just doesn't matter what level you're working with. I started at the middle school level, and holding even those youngest kids accountable to the same standard you hold those oldest and your best athletes, holding them to the same level of accountability all the way through, and coaching them hard, loving them harder type thing, but holding those kids accountable from the bottom, from the first time they enter your program all the way through.
Yeah, that's great advice. And that's one thing that if you don't get that established early on, then good luck with those guys the rest of the way, because it's going to be some tough sledding. All right. Well, we're going to jump into the meat of this conversation and really start talking some D-line stuff. So the first thing is the first question I have for you is in your opinion, what's the most undercoached aspect of D-line play? There's a lot of things out there that you can hammer on and focus on, but it is in your mind, or in your opinion, what's something, one aspect of D-line play that you see as maybe being undercoached? And we'll start with Coach McCarty on that again. Coach McCarty, what do you think the most underrated aspect of coaching D-line might be?
That's a good question. Good question, because there's so many different aspects of what we do. Coaching D-line, whether it be, run stuff, pass stuff, there's so much stuff that we have to deal with to squeeze into our individual time. I'd say for me, besides, I'm a big believer in fundamentals and technique. So a lot of stuff I may talk about might, be considered a little bit boring, because it's like, for me, it's all about fundamentals. It's all about technique. So I'm very basic when I talk to my kids about, about all the, alignment, assignment, technique, all the different things that, that we do, all the important things. I think undercoached, I'll go pass rush. I'll talk pass rush. I think maybe sometimes on pass rush, maybe sometimes we try to teach our kids too much. maybe too many pass rush moves. And, maybe they get better if we just teach them 1 or 2 pass rush moves to get really good at, and just perfect those 1 or 2 moves so they can get really good at it, feel confident about what they're doing, and maybe not try to teach them too many pass rush moves, because they'll never get good at anything. And then I think another thing, which I have to remind myself at times to be better at too, for pass rush, is not just the pass rush moves we're talking about or what we're doing in a specific drill, but for me, it'd be like counter moves. So I think I have to always remember, like, if I'm talking about a certain pass rush move, I got to make sure when I'm talking to my guys in a certain drill that I go over the counter move. That, hey, okay, so, because a lot of times, our kids are going to get beat. They'll try this pass rush move, and they're going to get beat. So, okay, if you get beat, what are you going to do next? A lot of times they just look at you and kind of stare at you and don't say anything. So I guess for me, it's just the knowledge of the game, just trying to teach them quick things they can remember, not paralysis by analysis, not too much information, but just, okay, so you're trying, chop club rip. Okay, so if you're trying that, you come off the ball and you get stuck, what's your counter move? Does he have high hands? He has low hands? Talking about the offensive lineman, what's your counter move? So I think just try to keep it real basic, real simple, and just, so the kids can, practice and get real good at 1 or 2 moves. But for me personally, the counter moves, just really trying to make sure I don't forget about the counter moves. Like, if you get stuck, you get beat, then what are you going to do? You're not just going to stop. You want to stay active. What are you going to do? So I think counter moves for me is what I've been trying to get a lot better at the last couple of years.
Yeah, in my mind, it's and this is for me personally as a defensive line coach. I always thought of like coaching pass rush as like the dessert. Like everybody wants to eat dessert. Everybody wants to get to that point. Yeah. But you got to eat your vegetables first, and that's coaching those kids to stop the run. But I know for me, that's exactly right. I want to get to pass rush and start coaching up all these pass rush moves that I've seen on Twitter and seen all these dudes doing that. Yeah. That the Aaron Donalds of the world and the JJ Watts of the world. And then when you do that, yeah, you can neglect a lot of things, including those counter moves. All right, so Coach Lyons, what do you got as far as maybe an aspect of coaching D-line play that could be undercoached?
So I've kind of, in the last year or two, I've kind of taken on the entire D-line. So I've kind of reprogrammed it to a new way where I can get reps and get stuff done with my guys. One thing that I think that we lacked big time was just hips in general, not necessarily flipping or anything, but just from the strike too. You don't think about how active our hips are until you actually sit down and look at it. For me, biggest thing is I'm a step punch guy. I'm a attack react guy. But I've Matt Valmore at Bridgetown, I think, kind of retrained me at a clinic, and he's got me on hips now. Being like little cobras, snakes, coming out there and striking first, and then working with what you got. I've always been a big believer of your first step is the biggest part. But I think if you have your hips involved in your whole body and not punching that explosion, then you can kind of sort out whatever the situation may be. Big fan of that stuff. And then when it comes to pass rush, and that's just speak and run. When it comes to pass, obviously I'm buddy with Sadiq Haynes at Sam. He's a big believer of getting hips around, not necessarily flipping them, not going on Twitter crazy, but throwing and getting that outside arm involved so you get those hips on an angle to the quarterback. You know what I mean? So that's just 2 things that I've picked up that I've been focusing on that I think are really underutilized, especially nowadays.
Yeah, and we've talked about it a lot on this podcast before about how sometimes those little minute details of things can be, they seem so insignificant that they're easy to skip over because you get bored with them as a coach, the kids get bored with them. Next week, we start our sack camp, and the first thing I was making a plan out today for linebackers is we're getting on the line, we're getting in a stance. And I already told the kids that, and they're rolling their eyes and they don't want to do steps. But you got to start there. You always got to start there with that base and build that foundation. And so you're right. Hips is one thing that can definitely sometimes be overlooked. I'll open up to the rest of you guys. Anyone else, something as far as coaching D-line goes that you feel like can sometimes be undercoached or overlooked?
I say, Ty, protecting our linebackers, on the squeezes and double teams. That These kids are so programmed into, looking at Twitter, looking, on social media and seeing the star status of making a tackle in the backfield, but what they don't realize, if they don't squeeze, there's not a natural gap exchange, and you got a backer getting clobbered by a 300-pound guard. And we know that's never a good matchup, and it's never good for our backers, our guys behind us to get creamed like that. I guess the undercoach thing is the big picture, because the kids don't really understand it from a very basic level. But once they, me and you have talked about this personally, once they understand, okay, this is the why, and once they figure that out, it starts clicking for them a lot faster.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't think we can shy away from that why question. Maybe back, in the day that was a no-no for kids to ask why, but I think I'm always open to having that 30-second conversation about why we're doing something. If guys want to know. In fact, a lot of times I'll beat them to the punch. I'll say, hey, this is stuff that they're doing with whatever school to kind of give it credibility, or this is something I picked up from, a clinic this spring, because you guys just think I sit around in the office and, shoot spit wads at the ceiling. Like I'm researching stuff too, and trying to put you guys in the best position to be successful. So anybody else undercoached aspect of D-line play?
No, I'd say their eyes. Sorry to interrupt. I listened to one guy that they got one of their trainers just to film those kids' eyes, that a bunch of them play Madden nonstop, and they're just trying to sack the quarterback every single time. And so getting your eyes in the right spot and learning the progression as the play goes through, I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm trying to emphasize.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Eyes is one and that's one that it took me a while. I've been coaching for a handful of years before I realized, oh man, eyes. I didn't even say anything about it. Look at the dude in front of you, I guess. I don't know. And so you kind of that one's is easy to neglect for sure. Anyone else?
No, I just want to say that's a good point about last two coaches. I think during spring football, the last spring, the big emphasis for when I was trying to get my defensive ends, Coach Zigler was talking about, on the down blocker, the importance of why it's so important to squeeze on a down block, and then, triangle reads and the eye discipline, where your eye's supposed to be and all that. That was a big emphasis for us the entire spring, was our defensive ends, knowing where the H-back is and all the different things our offense was trying to do to us during the spring. But it was eye discipline. And then I think another thing, which I think our kids, especially our younger kids, have a problem with too, is film, like watching film. We're in there watching film with them, because we had plenty of times watching meetings, and my group changed a lot this last year. I have a lot more younger kids in the D-line room now, a lot of young kids. So I think the emphasis of all the basics, eye discipline, all those important little details. But the second thing was film. Like, trying to get the kids to learn how to watch film. What are they looking for? Well, first of all, what's the why, like you said, I brought up the why a lot more this spring, why it's important to do our job, why it's important, because we run a 3-4. So our linebackers and safeties make most of the plays in our defense, so that's the importance for us. We're just trying to eat up blocks, compressed gaps, so those linebackers can make plays. We funnel everything to the alley so safeties can make plays. But just trying to teach the young kids why. So I think the last 3-4 coaches hit it perfectly. That was probably my whole emphasis over probably the whole entire spring, was all those things. Probably the last 3-4 coaches talked about. Those are very, very good points. And I think we're getting better. We're growing. We're getting better. But we have so many more younger guys that don't have those Friday night reps and don't understand. So I think that's kind of what that was my struggle this spring for spring ball.
Anyone else there as far as under coach aspect of D-line play before we move on?
Just something that we're doing. We Sanger's undersized. We got a lot of small guys at linebackers, that kids that look like they could be linebackers that are playing defensive end and stuff of that nature. But ours is the mentality. I feel like, kind of going off everything else, is they see the stuff on social media and they see, Aaron Donald and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, I sweep over the top of a guard and I just go play in the backfield. And then just the mentality of, like, D-line is not glorious, and D-line is, you got to be kind of ready to grind and ready to work. And make the most of it when your time comes, but understand that, 80, 90% of the game is you're just mashing and you're making things available for the rest of your team. But trying to get that through their head of like, listen, you're not trying to make a 30-play highlight reel out of one game. It's the dirty work that makes you seen by a lot of other people.
Yeah, no doubt. And all of those things you guys are talking about, a lot of the things that you're talking about are not the glamorous, sexy aspects of playing defensive line, which is why consequently they can be undercoached. We got hips, we got counter moves off pass rush, protecting, having the awareness of thinking about the dude behind you and not just what you're doing, your eyes, and then just that mentality, all those things are things that just when you're coaching humans in general, by nature, we're selfish and we want to think about ourselves. And so you're battling that just human nature and trying to think about other people and how what you do affects others around you. So those are all great answers. Now, speaking of, we've already referenced Twitter and social media a handful of times already in this conversation, and we're about to go there now. I'm going to share my screen with you guys and show you so that we can all see this here together. So this is a tweet, from Craig Rowe. We've talked about before we hit record here about what a great resource he is for defensive line and all the things that he's doing. So I'll just read his tweet word for word. It says, "How many defensive line coaches are teaching to strike with head and hands versus just hands?" And so then he has two videos, and one you can see right there. It looks like maybe Pittsburgh Steelers or something like that. Guys coming off and they're punching the sled with their hands in their face. And then the next video looks like maybe University of Washington, where they're punching with their hands only. So I didn't see this until I didn't have my phone on me for a large part of that day. I think we had our little kids football camp. And so I didn't see it until the afternoon, evening, when someone sent it to me and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And before I read any of the comments, I just gave my response. And it was not what you would say in the majority of the comments that I saw. I went back and looked, and I was like, oh, wow, I guess I'm maybe a Neanderthal coach or something. So I just want to throw it over to you guys, and I'm just going to let you go. I don't have anyone picked for this one. Let you guys open it up to give your opinion on this. What is your thought on this as far as striking with head and hands versus just hands? Don't start going quiet on me now.
You got it, Zig.
All right. Guys, we're taking the head out of tackling, right? So why are we going to bang our heads up against the big offensive lineman? That's my thinking. This past spring, with our guys, they struggled with pad level because we were just punching. So I changed up our philosophy. I live in a very rural area in Louisiana where hunting is the big deal. So I got a bunch of country kids, so I use their nose and their eyes as a hunting reference. So their eyes are their scope, the nose is the tip of the rifle, the end of the barrel, and their hands are the bullets. So it's basically a race. It's a race between my nose and my hands to get to my attack point, and my hands better win. So I'm still got my attack angle with my head place, with my pad level. Because we all know we got the guys that want to punch and look and peek over the offensive lineman, and their pad level goes up and they get on their backs quickly, or they get drove back into linebackers' laps. So racing our nose and our hands have to win. You got to think about it, like I was saying about a hunting reference. The bullet's going to travel out of the barrel. Your nose is the barrel, your hand's the bullet. Your eyes have to react to the scope. So that's just something I got it wrote down on my notes right here. That's a West Washita reference right there.
All right. Yeah. Hey, you got to find a way to relate to your kids. And obviously that's, I guarantee you that's going to speak to a lot of those kids and shoot a lot of kids in East Texas also. All right. I know you other guys have opinions on this, so let's hear it.
I'll go ahead and go. If you look at the first video, it looks like Iowa, or like you said, the Steelers black and gold. That's a 6-inch step. And then when you take that 6-inch step, your hands hit, your face mask comes into contact with that offensive line. If you look at the second video, I think it's Washington maybe, that purple and gold. that's coming straight out of your hips, making more violent contact, in my opinion. Hands are obvious, or excuse me, your head is out of contact, so your eyes can go through the progression of the play. And you get more knockback in that second video than you do on the first. I think that's a part of the benefit to me.
So I'll go ahead and say what I said to this person who sent this to me. I said, well, use I always say face mask and hands. And so how I've always coached it is, we're taking our 6-inch power step, although I've kind of gone away from saying that, and kind of like, who was it? Coach Lyons was saying, really emphasizing hips and coming out of your hips. But that, like, how do you, I guess, I know it sounds really, really good, and it looks really good on those videos. And you're right, Coach Urgelles, it's like, man, that second video looks a lot better to me. But is that possible to play a game without using your face mask? Like, I guess, and I asked this on this thread, and I wasn't trying to be a smart aleck. I'm like, hey, can you just show me like where it's actually like in a game where that's happening? Or is this just like clinic talk? Like, we want to, because I promise you, I want the head out of the game too. Like, I'm not trying to go back to saying, hey, head across the bow and let's go Oklahoma drill I'm not that. I'm not an old school coach, but to me, like, how do you create knockback consistent? Like, you have to use your face mask, right? And I don't like that first video. Like, that's the definition of they're burying their face in the chest. And I don't want that. And so I think I'm more of kind of like a hybrid between the two. Like, yeah, use your face mask, like put that face mask on his chin strap to kind of get some knockback and get that offensive lineman's head back. And so you can get those shoulder pads up in his neck. I don't know. Maybe you can do that without hands. I've never taught it that way. And so anyway, well, they're kind of my 2 cents on it. If someone wants to jump in and tell me what they think.
I think.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
I think that, you make a good point about being a hybrid between the two. Kind of like I said, I'm transitioning to the whole hips thing. So I can't give you a definitive answer, but what I can tell you is that, I'm looking for my guys to pop and peak. I want it to be quick. If I can keep and I have long guys. I don't have a bunch of short guys. I got long armed, 230-pound defensive ends that have length. So for them, and I guess this is the way that I think of it, I'm not trying to put those guys in the mix and get them wrapped up. They're not weight room warriors. They're just long. So I'm in the belief that if I can get that separation, and they're fast. I mean, I got one kid that anchors the 4x1. If I can get him to pop and peak and find ball right now and trash him and go, then I think we're good. Can't have my long guys, man.
Yeah, real quick. I know there's someone else that wanted to talk. I think that's a great point. Like, that's either way. You don't want them making – this shouldn't be where they're just in there for – it's pop. It's a pop is a good way of putting it. Like, I'm popping and peaking. And so it's happening really fast. And again, that first video it's way too long. And, and so if those are my kids going on that, I would have something to say about that. Like, dude, why are you burying your face in the chest like that? And you can see their arms aren't fully extended. And so they're probably getting held if that's in a game. And these guys, bless their hearts, they never knew that their video would be this scrutinized. They're like, chill, dude, I was in college. Okay. Sorry. I mean, crap. Let's pull up your practice tape. And break down your practice tape. So thankfully there's none of that floating around. All right. Anybody else?
Coach, I think we all want the same thing: hands, hips, feet, but we just want to make sure the head's going to happen. We just don't want to say it just to protect the kids, to protect ourselves. Because you just don't know, man, the way the protocols are and everything is now, you can't risk it, but it's going to happen. But the main thing is emphasize hands, hips, feet, hands, hips, feet. Kind of like osmosis. Hopefully it'll just fall in there.
Coach, you're right. And you're very wise. In saying that, you can't say it, although we all know it's going to happen. Probably doesn't need to be part of your progression. And so luckily I'm backing up a little bit, and that brings a whole new issue though with linebackers, because now, how do I take on the Josh Lyons of the world, the fullbacks of the world who are coming to run ISO at me? Like, I'm going to punch my hands and keep my head out of the way. Like, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole that we could go down. But anyway, We'll stick to just D-line play right now. I don't need you guys to, you don't have to solve my personal issues at this point, but anybody else have a thought on this?
Just one more comment, I guess, to wrap up on my end and get you guys on the page where I am. I think, like I said earlier, you want the Cobra strike. You know, you want to turn your guys into a Cobra, have them leaned out, and their feet will follow. And that's something that I've always believed in, is that you can always speed up your feet. You can't speed up your hips, and you can't speed up your hands. Once you're on, you're on. You know, I feel like another big issue, and maybe this is why it's becoming like I don't have sleds or a mass amount of sleds for my guys to work on. I have a 2-man, and that's about it. But our sleds are older, you know, straight out of the 70s. You have to hit them with your head to get your hands up or to get them lifted up. I feel like you can get so much more utilizing a wall or a goalpost or any of that. And I feel like, kind of like what Coach Acosta was saying, like your head's going to be in it, but, you know, the progression is hands, hips, feet. You know, that's what you want to look for. I feel like some of the equipment we use kind of brings us down sometimes too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Coach.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Coach. We got to love a sled that you have to get your head into it for it to engage. And I don't use it much, but maybe for 6-point, you know, hip explosions, and we're not even trying to get that thing in the air.
Yeah, that sled was probably made back when they thought, you know, giving water breaks was a bad thing, Coach Zig. So you do have to kind of understand, you know, hey, let me look back. You know, they have the years on those things. You look back and it's 1970. Okay, all right, guys, let's move on down the road. Let's just start hitting on each other here. All right, let's go to the next question. And again, if anyone has anything they want to say while I'm transition over to this next question, you feel free to pop in and say something. But let me pull up our next question here. Hope I didn't close it out. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, here we go. That's why I don't do live radio, guys. All right, next thing. This season, if you could only do one drill during your indie period, what would it be and why? So you got one drill. I know if you're coach at a smaller school, kind of like me, like you feel like that's all you get anyway during the year is one indie drill, and then the whistle's blowing and you're like, wait, what? We just, okay. All right, so that's all we got today. All right, cool. So one drill for this whole season, what are you doing?
I want to do the down block spiel. That's what I want to do. I want to wake them up. That's what we doing, baby. We down block and spilling. Let's blow it up. That's me. That's what I want.
Coach, I love that. Now, while we're on that, how are you teaching spill technique?
I'm still going with the wrong arm. That's because that's how I learned it. That's how I still want the wrong arm, bounce it out. I'm old school with it. Guy step down, you in his ass, follow through with the wrong arm, and we make the play. That's how I'm still teaching it.
Great, great. All right, so I saw some heads nodding there when he said run it, down block and working spills. What else you guys got? What would be your one drill if you had to work?
I know for me, we would do the kind of the 2-on-1 just block recognition, just working double, working reach, working down, split flow, kind of stuff like that. But just working on getting, your hands on, your man, eyes in your gap. I mean, if we do down block spill, we work the dent technique. We started working the dent techniques this off season. But yeah, we just rep as many as we can of just seeing stuff, because I know we struggle with just recognizing. We watch knees now. We started watching knees this off season and just trying to like recognize where they're going, because a lot of our guys, going back to the other stuff, our eyes want to peek and pop and see stuff, and they don't actually pay attention to where anything in the play is going. and then you're kind of just standing there by themselves in a B gap, just looking around.
Yeah, that would be my answer, would be that working the pods. And that's kind of cheating because you can do so much within that drill, but doing your 2-on-1 stuff, because if that's all you did during the week is you took the blocks that they're going to see that week and you rep the heck out of those things, then I mean, you can coach up a lot in that drill. So I think that would be my answer as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Probably my pods. Because I can do everything. I can do everything. I can work everything in there. I can do stance. I can fix the stance. I can do everything that we need to do. Stance, your eyes from ankle to knee, where are your eyes. I can work all the blocks that I need to rock, base reach down. I can put an H-back or sniffer away because we're having problems. We're not spilling. I can work all those basic blocks in that, 10-minute period, 15-minute period. I can work so much in pods or half line. That's what I would do as well. Because you can just get so much out of it. Like you said, Coach, you can get a lot of reps too. You can get lots and lots of reps, rotate your guys. They can get a lot of reps. So that's what I would do for sure.
Coach Mendoza, what you got?
Trash drill, man. You already know. I've definitely benefited from you teaching the guys at Tybee that drill. That's something that me and, Coach Russ did almost on a daily basis, man. Getting off those blocks and, shedding into your primary or your secondary gap. That's a staple for sure. One that I'm going to take with me to New Braunfels too.
Yeah, and I didn't even have to pay Coach Mendoza that much for him to say that. Just slide him a Chris Benjamin there, and for him to get him to say that. But no, he's talking about the trash drill, which I referenced a lot in this podcast, and it's one of those drills. It's one of my favorite drills to do. That would be definitely a close second to a pod work for sure. Anybody else?
We've worked that trash drill daily since I found out about that, since you mentioned it on here, and I looked it up and watched it, and I was like, man, we've worked that daily.
The guys really start to, what I found is they once like the light clicks, then they're getting off blocks, and it's a thing of beauty. And I did this my last couple of years at Tybee, where I would make at the end of the year, just a almost like a highlight clip and just call it, trash drill highlights or whatever. And it was just guys, and I don't want like guys like brawling where they're just, bar fighting with an offensive guard, but like where they're coming off and they're running their progression, they're getting extension, they're peaking, and they're trashing. And we had a nose guard that was probably the best that I've ever had at doing it. And he was just, he would take over a game just from his nose guard spot because he was so good at that drill. So yeah, that's definitely a good one. I wish I could take credit for it, but it was just a video. Kind of the story behind that was in 2014, I think, we were kind of having issues with that, and it was in the playoffs. And I was Google or something. I found it, and we started working it the next day, and it was a little rocky and didn't go off, just great. The kids didn't respond to it really, like you would want them to at first, but then we just kind of stuck with it, and it's really been a big difference maker for us, and brought it here to Pleasant Grove as well. Okay, well here we go. Let me ask you this one. Let's talk pass rush now. Let's get into the dessert, as I called it earlier. Drawing inspiration from another tweet I saw this week, and this wasn't from Craig Rowe, but I saw this one get some action, and I really, really, really wanted to jump on and respond. But kind of like how things can happen on Twitter, I don't want people to think I'm getting salty or that I'm calling people out or any. I'd rather just say, hey, let's just talk about it, and let me see if what you're saying is what I think you're saying, and what that sort of thing. So here's your chance to air your opinions out on this one. Are you teaching a hip flip when coaching pass rush? Why or why not? You see a lot of drills, where guys are flipping their hips around pop-ups, doing different things, and that's simulating, when they're turning that corner around that offensive lineman to go and get a sack. So are you a teacher of the hip flip? Why or why not? And Coach McCarty, I know it seems like I've started with you a lot, but I'm going to start with you because you are a defensive ends coach and been at this longer than maybe some of us. So what do you think, Coach?
Yes, I guess to answer your question, I say yes, I am. I also believe that it kind of depends on what you're doing. I mean, your noses, if you're kind of going over that bull snatch, I mean, you definitely have to flip your hips. You're trying to reduce your surface area, you definitely, got to finish with the rip so you don't have time to reset his hands. So I think kind of depending upon the position, depending upon what pass rush move you're trying to execute, you're trying to do, I think you definitely have to have, be able to flip your hips at times. But I think and I'm sure every coach here has, a wealth of knowledge and does things similar ways and different ways, but as well. But I just think that you have to reduce your surface area, your chest as much as possible. So I guess flipping your hips, that helps doing that. But I think at the same time, you still have to make sure you're working upfield. I mean, a lot of times, sometimes I'll get frustrated with some of our guys when they're working a pass rush move. They'll do a great job, getting off the ball, because it's all about your ball getting off the ball. Did a great job, active hands, and they try to work and move, and then they sort of try to flip their hips a little bit, but then they stop. Either they stop or they stop their feet, and they just sort of stop, and they give the offensive lineman a chance to reset his hands or get their bounce or reset their hands and set their hands in our chest and then lock us up, and then we're done. So I guess, yes, to answer your question, but you still have to work your pass. You still have to work up the field. You want to try to get your offensive lineman to have to turn his shoulders, move his feet, trying to, because we're supposed to be better athletes than those offensive linemen. So make those guys work, make them turn their shoulders, make them move their feet, use their leverage against them, as best you can. But I think with the hips, the best thing I try to help our kids learn is if you don't get off the ball, you're not violent with your hands or active with your hands, at least get them to respect your speed, your ball get off. The reason why we're trying to teach you to flip your hips or do what you're doing with your hips is so you can reduce that surface area. I think I'll go back to that basically. Just if not, guys, they're gonna just quick set you, punch, and they're gonna stay in front of you, and then you're not gonna go anywhere. The ball's gone in 3 seconds anyway. I mean, the ball's gone 3 seconds anyway. Now these days with all the offense and the quick game and all the quick strike air raid offenses and stuff, the ball's gone in 2-3 seconds anyway. So you better make your move. You better make your move fast, and it's got to be quick. So sorry, I was a little long-winded. Apologies.
No problem. No problem. Anybody else have an opinion on the hip flip?
I guess my whole thing on it is, kind of like Coach was saying, is you try and flip those hips and you only got so much time. I've gotten to the point, I'm more into this right now, and this may be a phase, but I've gotten to where, I tell my kids to run a 40. If I'm going to run a 40, I'm going to widen out a little bit, and I'm telling them to get from point A to point B in 2 or 3 steps. I've gotten out of the power moves, the bull rushes and stuff, just because we get down the middle of people and we just go left and right. Now you have no vertical pressure. Like I said, I'll have them throw that outside arm. And I mean, technically that's a hip flip, but really to me, it's a bend of the pocket. You're trying to bend that pocket, keep it contained in there. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily flip anything. And that's whether you're converting out of a long arm or even if you rip, okay, if I club and rip and then I throw that outside arm, all I did was pull out the rip, and now my hips are flipped to the quarterback. I'm straight line to the quarterback. So, I mean, technically I'm there, but I'm not directly teaching a hip flip. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a good point that, it really does depend on the set that you're getting from the offensive lineman. Coach Zigler, I talked about this not too long ago, but like if I'm getting off the ball so fast that now, like my nursery rhyme is if we're even, I'm leaving. Like if our hips are even, I'm leaving. So I don't need to hip flip. Like I beat him. But now, if he is setting high on me, he's retreating, and he gives me an aggressive set where he shoots his hands. Well, now I do have to do something whether I'm going to forklift it or whether I'm chopping and dipping, ripping. Like I do have to flip because he's basically on my track. But you're right. Like if you have the guys that you have, Coach Lyons, that are those track guys, like, dude, widen those dudes out, and they don't even know how to spell flip. Like just go. Okay. And that's where it comes in that, you're racing to that spot that 4.5 yards behind that tackle's left or outside foot. But so if you were to look at the things that I was reading on Twitter, it was kind of like back when I was in middle school and I was still wearing blue jean shorts, and I found out that they weren't cool anymore from my buddies telling me that, hey, dude, no one wears blue jean shorts to school anymore. You need to go and put those away. And I was like, dang, is the hip flip not cool anymore? Like, what am I behind? So anyway, I think that it does, in my opinion, does still have its merit that you do, but that you're not always working. It just sort of depends on the set given to you by the offensive lineman.
I agree with the set that you get, and it comes off a film study, I believe. If that tackle is going to vertical step and keep his shoulders square for a long time period, then you cannot curve it. I mean, you're going to have to snatch, pull across, and cut that corner as fast as possible. I'm going to put it in my kid's toolbox, but we're not going to live in it, kind of deal, is the best way I'm going to describe that.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that for sure. Anyone else?
I think really what we started doing this year, I was blessed. I had a lot of really quick kids, athletic kids. So we started turning our toes a lot to turn the hips. When we worked the pop-ups, it was always turn your toe, flip your hips, turn your toe, flip your hips over and over again. But like Coach said, that was just part of the toolbox. We worked everything else. But since we were starting to get a lot of just raw, quick pressure, we tried to emphasize that to try to get them there as quick as possible. Turn your toe, turn your hips.
I teach turn your toe in the bend.
Easy, coach. Easy, coach.
Yeah.
We dropping a rap album over here or something.
Right.
All right.
But I agree. That's how I learned. That's what I teach. The flipping the hips, it look good and stuff, but sometimes the players, they fast and they end up taking themselves out of play a little bit, or whatever. And, so, yeah, I teach turn the toe.
Yeah, I'm definitely on that, pointing that inside toe. You're going to go where that toe goes. But Coach Rorie coming in with the line of the night right there, we could shut this thing down and call it good. But I will ask another question here. Now it's the summertime. You got time. You're going to be traveling, working out in the yard, listening to podcasts, have a chance to hit up some coaches and talk to them about some things. So what's one aspect of D-line play that you're wanting to learn more about, or maybe that you've already been looking into and learning more about this off season? And we'll start with you, Coach Zigler. What you got?
Oh man, you already know is the pass rush techniques and everything like that, because and how to prevent, just the different things with getting washed down. Definitely when you're playing a nose or you're slanting into the down. Let's say you're playing a 5-tech and you slant in the B gap and you got the tackle, taking his track to the back, or he's just, latching on and washing down. How to counter our weaknesses as a defensive line. That would be the two big things: pass rush and how to counter our weaknesses if we do get caught in a compromised position.
Great. Coach Manor, what about you?
Well, for us, we like I've said multiple times, we have undersized kids. I mean, our defensive end, our starting defensive end right now is 5'10", 185. Our nose guard's a rising sophomore. I mean, he's a big kid, but it's just one of those things that, like, we've got a little bit of speed. Our biggest thing is, just run defense, how to stop the run undersized. Like ours is, we teach techniques and, going back to kind of with the hands thing, they all want to just, use their speed almost too much to where they just completely olay everything instead of actually, working technique to where it sets them up for success, but also just sets our whole defense up. So, different run stop techniques, looking into kind of how can we, morph what we're doing right now into, with the kind of the small man in mind. I mean, we don't have the long anchor 230 kids. We have, the go get them kids. And so we got a lot of fight, but we're trying to, that's going to be us this off season, is just trying to figure out how to kind of blend an undersized line into being some solid run stoppers.
Coach Mendoza and I can definitely relate to playing, trying to stop the run with undersized kids. I felt like that was the same story every year when I was in Kerrville is trying to utilize some undersized kids and teach them how to take on double teams and that was always difficult. So I can definitely relate.
The hill country way.
That's right. That's the country kids.
I grew up in Fredericksburg. I know.
There you go.
Country way.
There you go. The kids are just like the deer. There's a bunch of them. Dadgummit, they ain't very big.
That's for sure.
So anyway, anybody else on that? Something you're looking forward to learning more about or talking more about this off season?
Something I want to, continue looking and learning about is just the offensive line pass protections, different types, talking about slide protection, talking about vertical highs, vertical lows, just learning more and how to attack those with the pass rush, like Coach Zigler was talking about, like what's advantageous against this type of offensive protection. So pass rushing combined with, the offensive lines, pass protection, how to combat and whatnot like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Anybody else?
I think like pass rush is like the never-ending quest. You're always looking for that one way or that better way to do it. But for me, something I'm going to try to focus in on is drills to work different drills to work the same things. So you don't start doing the same thing over and over and over again, man, because it just wears those kids out. It wears you out, So just trying to find different ways to work the same thing every day.
Yeah, that's right, Coach. I think that for our own sanity, that it's good to find, you're still covering the same skill, but just in a different way can really, keep it from being such a drag, especially when you get in the middle of the season and or you're that last week of fall camp or whatever when you haven't hit anybody in a different color jersey in a while. So, well, hey guys, I hope you're okay with us hanging on and doing a little bit of rapid fire questions now. I think all of you guys can attest. I sent some of you an outline. So you kind of were able to cheat a little bit on this part, but on this next part, no one had any questions coming into it. But I will tell you this, if you've listened to this podcast before, I'm going to ask some of the same questions that I ask in this segment to you guys. And here's the difference is I'm just going to call on you. And it's kind of like being in class back in the day in high school. You just got to be ready to go. And so if you get caught sleeping, then we're all going to laugh at you. So, anyway, here we go. Here is the first rapid fire question. Okay. And I've been asking this one a lot lately, but I want to hear, what is your writing utensil of choice, and tell me why tell me why it's a pen. I'm just kidding. For me, it's a pen, but what's your writing utensil of choice, Coach Lyons? What you got?
I actually just switched to these friction pens from Pilot. I'm a Rocket Book guy. Fresh new lifestyle. So they're very beneficial to carry around with you. Knock out the writing in the Rocket Book, erase it, and then roll on to the next day. So.
Okay. All right. And Coach Fuller likes pads of paper and pens. So like, if you want to get on his good side.
He caught me today and was like,
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, he likes stuff like that. So that's always a good thing, Boss Appreciation Day, whatever. All right. Coach Acosta, writing utensil of choice. I don't like writing utensil. I don't know if that's the correct term, but
old school, just big pen, just something I can just push, goes in and out, man.
Okay. Yeah.
Like some of y'all millennials, man. I can't handle all that. Something that doesn't get all over my clothes,
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. So we're moving on. Those are the only guys that get to answer that question. Sorry. If you had a really impassioned answer about why your pen is the best pen in the world, you'll have to throw it out there on Twitter or something, or you can tell us later. Next question is, what's on the game day playlist for you, Coach Rorie? We got to start with you, man. Okay. You got to tell us What's on that game day? What's on that game day
Hey,
playlist? What's getting you juiced?
I'm versatile, man. I got a little DMX, have a little Phil Collins in the air tonight. I have a little bit of AC/DC. You know, I have a little bit of Arsenal with mine, so I'm bringing it. A little heavy metal, a little rap.
You
Yeah.
got to have some North Carolina. Come on. Okay.
Well, Petey Pablo, some of the kids.
Yeah, there we
like
go.
that.
There we go.
Yeah.
I got you. All right, Coach Urgelles, what's on the game day playlist?
I'll jump around. I'll go rap. I'll go a little bit of sometimes some country to calm it down right before the storm. But Metallica, Enter Sandman is probably number one. Thunderstruck was played in my weight room every single day, so that was good. And then I'll hit up some Tennessee whiskey right before game time.
Okay,
calm it down.
Maybe my proudest moment as a dad up to this point is my 19-month-old son. Because I would play for my son who's about to start kindergarten. We'd in the truck going to his soccer game, 3-on-3 soccer game, which is kids basically chasing butterflies. We're playing Thunderstruck in my truck. So the 19-month-old son, he kind of got used to it. So he'll ask for it. The way he asks for it is by pumping his fists, and so that's why I know what he wants. And so, yeah, we're all about some Thunderstruck for sure at our house. I probably played just about every day. Great way to start the day, especially when everyone's up at 6:30. So, okay. Next question. This one's real quick. Are you a grass or turf guy? Coach McCarty, grass or turf? What do you prefer?
In high school, I would say definitely grass. Played on grass, so I'd say grass. Over the last 20 years, I'd say that the new stuff that's out now is pretty good. But in my younger days in high school, I definitely want to say grass.
Yeah, no to AstroTurf, I'm assuming. Like the old Bauer Stadium, Coach Lyons used to be. Okay. Coach Zig, grass or turf?
Man, you know how that Louisiana heat is. Turf, we got it. It helps out a lot, but we all know how hot that turf is, man. That first practice we had in, that end of July, 1st of August, those poor kids' cleats, they never felt the heat on their feet until that day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's always a punch in the face when you walk out to the practice field in August and feel that heat rising up off that rubber. And I think there's some turf fields out now where it's like supposed to be a lot cooler. It's like the stuff that they put in there. Maybe you guys know something about that. It's like not the rubber pellets, but it's something else. Anyway. Okay, cool. All right. Here's what I want to hear about. Game day superstitions. Coach Acosta, do you have a game day superstition? Are you superstitious? And if so, what are your game day superstitions?
Man, I'm not really superstitious, more than I follow my same routine. I got to work out that morning. I have to go work out. I have to have my clothes ready. I have to have my bag ready. I have to set it all out. I have to make sure I get on the checklist and have my stuff put in the hallway already. If I don't follow that routine, I'm toast the rest of the day. That's all I worry about. So it's not really superstition, more than routine.
All right, so you're like Michael Scott. You're not superstitious, but you are a little stitious for Office fans there. All right, anybody? I'll open this question up for everybody. Let's because you guys probably got some weird quirks that the world needs to know about. So, what are if you have some game day superstitions, what are they? Or something that you have to do on game day. Maybe it's not necessarily superstitious. I'm with Coach Costa on the game day lift. I like to go get an arm pump in a couple hours before game time. Get in there, get some buys and tries, and get some inner Sandman going. That sort of thing. Anybody else? What you got? Game day stuff.
I don't know if it's a superstition, but the feeling of getting there on Friday night and seeing the stadium empty, that we get there so early, and seeing all the empty seats and kind of envisioning how the game's going to go kind of gets me going, man.
Well, mine is a pregame meal. I got to have some carbs. I got to have some pasta, a salad. Mine, I have to eat. My pregame meal has to be good. They have to be on point. That's me. It was like that when I played. Pregame meal is very important. It set the whole tone for me.
Coach Zig, now you shaking your head now, Coach Zig. So what you got? What's your pregame meal, Coach Zig?
Oh, man. I tell you what, we have a lady that comes and cooks for us rather be a set meal every other week or whatnot. And to be honest with you, man, I hadn't got this size for being picky. So we all know I'm a lineman at heart, lineman all the way. So, we like to eat. But I would say a superstition I would have is more of a scare. I'm scared that I'm not going to get dressed in time to be out there for pregame. So right after pregame meal, I go and get just about 80% of my stuff on because I'm running down for officials. I'm turning on lights. I'm the gopher. So I'm trying to organize all my stuff, and I handle equipment on top of director of football ops and on top of D-line stuff. So, yeah, I'm scared that I'm always going to get caught up and not have time to be down there for pregame warm-ups.
Yeah, I want to know what's her best dish that she cooks.
Man,
I
she
miss that
slow
Cajun
cooks it.
food.
It's just that, we're North Louisiana, so we're up in the mountains, the Cajuns call it. She slow roasted pork loin. It is so tender, and with her loaded mashed potatoes on the side, with the dessert, with the pass rush of banana pudding.
There we go. Yeah, Coach Urgelles, he had the dino ribs on the smoker this week. So he's, I didn't get any overnighted to me, so I'm assuming they were good. But anyway, yeah.
There wasn't any left.
That pregame meal is important for sure. And I think we've all had that dream where you wake up and you miss the team bus, or you running out there throwing your stuff on as everybody's going through warm-ups. That's a terrible nightmare to have. And I think we've all had it. Well, guys, we're gonna stop it right there. We could, I'm sure, keep this thing rolling well into the evening here, but we're gonna bring it to a close there. Once again, want to thank you guys so much for joining us and for making this episode a fun one. And just want to wish all of you guys the best of luck, and look forward to staying in touch with you this next year in 2021.